How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Ganji. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, we have a major update, and then I want to go into the discussion that I'm going to have with our mental health specialist, Denise Schoenwald. We are going to be revisiting the Anna Kepner case. She is the young, beautiful woman, 18 years old, who died on the Carnival cruise ship. Now we have the manner of death, which or the cause of death, which I will give you right at the very beginning after I introduce my guest. And then we're going to discuss that a bit. But then I would like to go on to the regular show because I didn't expect the cause of death to be released so soon. But I guess there is pressure now because of what happened in the custody battle, which I'll show you. I have two videos I want to show you from Court TV. But I want to focus on the concerns that I see in the comments. And we're gonna touch on the age gap. I believe the ex-boyfriend of Anna was 15 and Anna's 17. I really don't think it's relevant, but because it's showing up on my comments, I just want to comment on that just to be fair for people that are asking. But I don't think it's really relevant. Again, I'm not here to shame Anna Kepner because she's 17, he's 15. It's normal. I'm going to put it out there. It's normal. They're in high school. No one's in a position of authority. They got the Romeo and Juliet laws. It's just it's normal. But I want to put it out there, not as a shame, but let them know it's normal. Let's not focus too much on that. And then I want to go into the big thing, the preventable side, the sharing of the cabin. And that's where I think those questions are a bit out of my league. And I wanted to bring Denise in to take the lead. And that is the questions that have been dominant on my my YouTube channel. So let me bring Denise on real quick, introduce her for you guys that don't know. A lot of new followers came in overnight, and then we'll go into the cause of death. I'll do the quick little thing about the age, 15 to 17, which again, not the shame, just for some clarity. And hopefully it removes any type of shame because I feel like people are looking into that too much. And then the main part of the discussion, the biggest concern that I believe came through the channel last night through the comments. So let me bring on the great Denise. Hey, Denise.
Hi.
Denise, you have been busy. So please, can you let the audience know who you are? A lot of them just came to the channel yesterday, so they may not be familiar with your wonderful work.
Hey, hi. I'm Denise Schoenwald. I'm a former critical care nurse, but most recently in the last dozen years, I am now a nationally licensed mental health counselor and family mediator.
Yes, and you have some books on the market, if you don't mind me.
I do. I have a book on relationships called Elephants Don't Marry Giraffes, Healing Your Body by Mastering Your Mind. I have Insightful Self-Therapy, and I have two children's books, Getting Back to Happy and When Mom and Dad Divorced.
And guys, look at the context there. There's a lot of family background there, correct? You work with troubled families, correct?
I do.
That's why I think what we're going to go into is a perfect topic because I don't think we talk a lot about blended families, especially in this case here with this gentleman here. And I have a segment from Court TV that's going to try to explain this family dynamic. But it is a bit unique. You got a father that may have married 3 times. So you got, what do you call it? A full daughter. Then you got half. And then you got step. I just found out the difference between half and step, so it makes it a bit complex. So I do want to showcase that bit from Court TV that tries to explain it, but also I want to touch on the court hearing that or the custody battle that started it all, because that's what opened this up. Because if it wasn't for that custody battle, we probably wouldn't know this information at this point. But I guess now that it's out, they have to push through because now it's about kind of maintaining the narrative the way it needs to be. So they're not going to let the media run with it. But real quick, earlier today, guys, I did a show to kind of introduce to you what we were going to discuss. So we opened up a very difficult but necessary discussion about the death of 18-year-old Anna Kepner. There she is. We talked about blended families, shared spaces, and the warning signs that too many people overlook until it's too late. And we asked a question that's been sitting in everyone's kind of gut as this case unfolds is was this preventable? Now, today's reporting has shifted the entire picture, right? So according to a new report, Anna died from asphyxiation caused by a chokehold, a bar hold, meaning someone's arm was across her neck, and that detail changes the landscape of the conversation in a profound way. So they found bruises here. So I thought of a rear naked chokehold, kind of getting behind this way, and taking the person out, because that's where you can get the greatest grip. Because a chokehold isn't accidental, a chokehold isn't something you fall into. It requires pressure, intent, and sustained force. But investigators still have to examine how that chokehold happened, and that opens the door to several uncomfortable but necessary possibilities. So, guys, I want to explore this a little bit. I'm going to give out possibilities, and if it's okay for Denise, I'm going to have you explore each one. Again, these are possibilities. It's not to minimize, but I want to give you what could have happened, and see where it goes. So remember, she is in the room with two young boys, and we're going to find out who. Definitely is this. One's the stepbrother. He's the 16-year-old, and then I believe one could be the half brother who's 14. But either way, we're really focused on the stepbrother who is 16. Could this have started as play wrestling? So teenagers roughhouse, especially boys, and a 16-year-old boy can have a significant strength advantage over 18-year-old girl. Playful hold can turn dangerous fast if someone panics or the person applying pressure doesn't realize how fragile the airway actually is. Or could he have been trying to overpower her, whether to silence her, restrain her, or impose control? Chokeholds are used to immobilize. It's a method often seen in violence among adolescents. And I've seen a couple of ways if this is a chokehold, how it could have been held. He would be on her back in one way, on top of her. That could be, or some type of headlock could be another way. But my mind first went that could have been on her back. Could it have been sexually motivated? Investigators cannot ignore that possibility. Chokeholds can be used to subdue a victim during an attempted assault. We don't have evidence confirming this, but the method of death forces the question. And what must Anna have felt in those final moments? Being choked out is terrifying. The brain starves for oxygen. The person can't scream. The panic. Many victims describe realizing they can't breathe long enough. They can't breathe long before the person holding them realizes the damage is being done. So again, it's like you go out pretty quick. That's why sometimes people do die in a playful manner this way, but may not have been a playful manner. This cause of death doesn't just deepen the tragedy, it adds a new dimension to the central issue we discussed earlier. Anna was in a small confined cruise cabin with the boy now identified as the suspect. A chokehold requires proximity, it requires opportunity, it requires access, and that room provided all three. And that is why the cabin arrangement, something many people dismissed at first, is now at the very center of this case and very well pushed into my comments. So Denise, given that Anna died from a chokehold or asphyxiation, how could we understand whether this was rough play that went too far, an attempt to overpower her, possibly even with a sexual or controlling motive, and how much did the confined cruise cabin and the strength difference between them increase the danger of this escalating?
Well, I can't imagine that they were roughhousing. I mean, it just doesn't really make any sense. Whether he was trying to subdue her in some way or he had some attraction to her, which is a little bit what I've been reading about, is a little bit more likely.
Oh, okay, that was good. Yeah. So sorry, I forget you're so matter of factly, which is great. So let me get myself back on because this thing messed up. So right. But let me ask a question though. So I agree with you 100%. I just wanted to be fair in what someone else could say. Someone could say, well, just could be a boy just trying to try to wrestle a sister and it could have gone wrong. But in order for you to choke someone out to death, I mean, they pass out, but you still got, you have to choke them for what I'm hearing, you may pass out within the first 5 or 6 seconds.
Yeah.
But the choke itself is probably 30, 40 seconds of just having no oxygen going to the brain.
Right. And likely if she were just to pass out and he let go, she would not have choked to death.
Right. And she would have obviously went limp right away. I mean, correct. She looks like a smaller female.
Correct.
So I could just imagine a 16-year-old man, technically to some extent.
Right. But usually if you're sort of roughhousing and chokes, somebody will pass out and then obviously you let go because you're not meaning to harm somebody and then they start breathing again. It's, very unlikely that you continue holding to the point where you're choking somebody to death.
So I think we're definitely on the same page. There was a context here where the ex-boyfriend had said that he was FaceTiming her one night around 3 a.m. I've done in the past with my wife. We used to fall asleep on the phone together when we were dating. I guess now the new thing is FaceTiming. You kind of just leave the phone on and you just kind of like you're next to each other, but still respecting the boundaries that daddy wants. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he said that during the FaceTiming, sometime around 3 a.m, he saw the stepbrother go in the room with the knife and go on top of her. And he noticed it and he told him to get out. And basically he said he reported it or told his father. The father told Charles Kepner, the father of Anna. And as to what happened, I don't know, but they said that this kind of could have been an obsession. So if you have that context, that story tends to be true. You can't help but picture the fact that if he's alone in the room with her and there's a chance that, it's just them two alone and no one could get to them, he could try. And in his mind could think that her no's are a yes. Could someone's obsession into another person somehow be projected into that other person?
Well, definitely. I think, when somebody's obsessed, I'm sure Anna had some sort of inkling that he was more dangerous than he let on. I mean, the fact that I'm just so surprised that the parents or the mom and the dad just allowed the daughter to stay with the two boys. To me, that whole thing just seems a little bit bizarre.
Yeah, and I want to explore that. But what I also meant by the projection, maybe I asked it wrong, was, is there a chance where, let's say I'm obsessed with you, Denise, and I'm so obsessed with you that in my own obsession, even when you're telling me no, I still think it's a yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Because they hear what they want to hear. And, even if you sort of look at them the wrong way, they say, I know that she's attracted to me. This is what obsession is. They convince themselves of their own lies and BS, if you will.
So then even if this is the case, guys, this may not be the case, but let's just say in general, because I think there's something here that could be applied outside of this case. So I want to just finish one more question so if that's the case, and I'm obsessed, I think, you want me, obviously you don't, but I think you do because of how obsessed I am. Then your nose, that's that sign of resistance in my mind is technically playful. How do I view your nose if I'm projecting the obsession?
Or sometimes it just gets to the point of no return, where it gets to a certain degree where they just can't stop, and then they go too far. We see this a lot with S&M. When people do the sexual masochistic type play, that sometimes it can go too far.
Right. That's what I thought that was just interesting, just to kind of start the dialogue off. So whether that plays here or not, this dialogue did give us the opportunity to introduce that. So I got one more thing before we go into the video, is I see a lot of stuff in the comments about her being 17, him being 15, the ex-boyfriend, I mean. So some people have raised concerns about Anna previously dating a boy who may have been 15 and when she was 17. In my mind, but I'll ask you, but let's be clear, this is a completely normal legal adolescent age gap. Nothing about that relationship is inappropriate or unusual, and it should not be used to criticize her or distract from the very real issue in this case, such as the cabin arrangement, the blended family dynamic, and the warnings that may have been missed. Two teenagers dating is not the story here. The story is what may have happened inside the cramped cabin and whether the adults made decisions that failed to protect Anna. So I just wanted to get those two thoughts kind of out there. Now, I do have, and this is where we're going to get into discussion about extended families or blended families. This is very complex. What I thought we could do is, if you don't mind, is there's this video from Court TV where they're going to show on November 20th, there was a custody battle that Chantel Hudson is having with her former husband. They've been through a divorce. And it's about basically custody of the children. And they don't like the way her parenting style is, which we'll see. But this is what opened up basically how we know the information that we know, because basically they didn't want to incriminate the 16-year-old. And that opened up to the dialogue of, hey, wait a second, what criminal act? How was he involved in this boat incident? So I thought this would be very relevant just to see this part. And then after that, the reporter is going to try to break down the family dynamic, tell you who's who, and then we'll go right into the dialogue. So I thought this was a good video worth sharing. So
that would be helpful.
Yes, and so I think it's about, if you do both parts, maybe 6 minutes.
Okay.
All right, guys, bear with me. Here we go.
I understand, very confusing for people who try to follow the bouncing ball here. So why don't you remind us of this family tree, if you can?
Well, Vinny, before we get to the family tree, they were actually in court today talking about this custody battle.
We've got them on video.
We got them on video, so let's take a listen to that.
Got to watch that.
In terms of what has happened, we've indicated through our other motions that my client is being denied his parenting time with the 2 younger children. However, it's come to our attention that we're not aware of the full details. And again, there's apparently an FBI investigation ongoing that the mother took the 2 younger children on a cruise, and that the older child, who's approximately 16 years of age, is a suspect in the death of the stepchild, an 18-year-old daughter that was in the same room, staying in the same room on the cruise ship. So we're very concerned with those circumstances. The parties have agreed for the 16-year-old is now placed with a maternal relative, so not with either parent, with a third party here in our area up near Hernando County.
So with a maternal relative, the 16-year-old is with a maternal relative?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and so really what's at issue in your emergency motion is the youngest child?
Correct, Your Honor.
And what would be, if the 16-year-old is in the care of someone else, is not with mom, what would be the emergency in the court needing to address the issue as to the youngest child?
Well, we feel there are some circumstances regarding that, the 16-year-old and the mother's judgment regarding that cruise, that would affect, obviously that her ability to care for the minor child, the 9-year-old, in that she's making some bad choices and obviously alienating the child from the father as well. Well, Your Honor, it's our understanding that because the cruise was in international waters, that the young child, not the 9-year-old, but the 16-year-old was allowed to drink. The teenagers were given their own room in which to stay. Just a lot of circumstances that show that the mother in this case was not exercising appropriate supervision over this child or the other child involved.
There is currently an FBI investigation as well with regard to the 16-year-old, and as well as there was a DCF involvement, and there's a DCF open investigation on the father in this case. The FBI has cleared my client from any wrongdoing. She's not considered a suspect in this matter at all. I would have difficulty in them putting the 16-year-old on the stand because I don't want anything done that would incriminate the young man. Mom immediately after the incident, he was hospitalized, and then when released from the hospital, mom and dad participated too. They signed a stipulation basically allowing him to live with mom's relative, and they're getting counseling and so forth for him. So I don't see that there's any emergency relative to the youngest child. The issue that counsel raised about drinking, there are videotapes on the ship that confirm that there was absolutely no drinking, and that and DCF investigated and saw that there was no alcohol in mom's house whatsoever. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. But if that's the case, I would think in order for me to move forward on that motion, I would need to subpoena the DCF worker and possibly the FBI investigator as to those issues, as well as the mother and the stepfather.
So, Vinny, a lot of family dynamic again going on there, and that actual emergency.
So before we get into the blended family, before he kind of tells you who's who, I'm sure you've been through a lot of this. I mean, this probably is a bit more unique. I didn't even mention that the father had some DCF investigation or something, but this to me is, I know that obviously this really does put pressure on family because the kids ultimately do suffer. I mean, these custody battles definitely tend to get personal, and then how do you rebuild a relationship that will benefit the child after that?
Yeah.
But I would love your professional opinion on everything that you just saw there.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm still confused as to the whole family dynamics. You know, how many, who's who and who belongs to whom, because I thought that in the room was the 16-year-old and then a 14-year-old, but they're mentioning a 9-year-old. So now I'm a little bit.
I may be able to give some clarity to that. You know what? They're going to mention it anyway. Why don't we do that? But just from my impression is that there was the 14-year-old, whether that's the half brother or stepbrother of Anna, but it's definitely the 14-year-old and the 16-year-old. The 14 goes off to take some pictures, and somewhere during that time is where they feel this incident occurred. But you know what? That's a very smart idea, Denise. Let's just see. Maybe this will give us some clarity because it's extremely confusing.
It really is.
I know like there's 3. So as I said, what I hear is he married 3 times. The first wife was where well, I think it's Heather Kepner or whatever, but that's where Anna was born. Then he had 2 with the second one, so that would be the half. And then in the third marriage, she brought in 3 more kids, and that's the step. All right, I believe that's it, but let him explain.
Okay,
he's done more research.
Hearing will be held in person on December 5th at 9 a.m. with multiple witnesses expected to be called. But let's break down this family. Let's remind people because there's a lot of confusion going on here.
It's very confusing because you have siblings, you have half siblings, you have step siblings, you have various relationships and marriages. So let's see how we can break this down.
Yeah, we're not sure who falls under half, step, full, but this is the breakdown as we understand it. So we'll start with Christopher Kepner and Heather Wright. They had a daughter. That is the deceased here, Anna Kepner. Christopher later married a woman named Tabitha Kepner. They had 2 children. Those are Anna's half-siblings. Then Christopher married Chantel Hudson, the stepmother who was on the ship. Chantel was previously married to a man named Thomas Hudson, who we just saw in video there. Now, we don't know exactly how many children they had, but we know that Chantel moved to Titusville with the youngest 2 children, and those 2 children of Thomas and Chantel are Anna's step-siblings. So that's as far as we have the breakdown.
And from what we watched in that hearing, because the hearing is about Thomas and Chantel, I think they're talking about those 2 children, the younger children. That's what they keep referencing, the younger children, and that would line up with what we're learning about the family here. And those, it seems to me, would likely be the 2 who were sharing the room with Anna on the ship.
Now I think he's correct, but I also heard that there's a child of hers that's 18. So she may have 3. But either way, I don't want to get too confusing. It's really the 16-year-old and the 14-year-old. And there's an interesting dynamic there because as they discussed the story later, he said this is a crazy divide because, and I didn't even think of it like this, but 100% it would be, is if I'm Chantel Hudson, I'm going to want to protect my son, both my sons, because one son could have did the act. One son could be a star witness.
Correct.
If I'm the father, I'm going to want justice for my daughter.
Yes.
So now you have this dynamic of protecting your son, both, even the star witness versus getting justice for my daughter. How strenuous, especially this is a blended family where they don't have biological bonds.
Correct. And then you also have Thomas, who's, there's this DCF is involved in this case somehow. So this is already complicated between Chantel and Thomas with the kids. And now this all happens with Anna. This is getting more and more complicated.
That's a very good point, because like
Mhm.
Thomas Hudson being the father of Chantal, I believe they also say Thomas Hudson may be the same name of the 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I saw a TH.
Mm-hmm.
So, but just out of curiosity, now that you got a little bit of the family dynamic in play, I mean, obviously you've seen these hearings before, but this is really a little bit of a mess here, though, right?
Very complicated. And Chantel and Thomas already have this this sort of very complicated legal family situation. Then they go on a cruise and the kids all get like put together, and then this happens.
Yeah,
It's a mess.
That's what we're going to now go explore. That is one of the that's the biggest concern, is about the shared cabinet. So I have 6 very thoughtful questions coming your way. I know they start off as 6, but we wind up going off to so many tangents here. But I would love, obviously, as you always do, kind of explore it, and guys, remember, we're figuring it out as it goes. So these discussions we're having, we're in no way saying we're experts. We're here trying to figure out, just like you are. So the more that you add to the show, the better, because then we may decide to revisit it with some knowledge that's provided to us right from the community. So again, earlier today, I opened up on a very difficult but necessary discussion about the death of 18-year-old Anna Kepner. We talked about, blended families, shared spaces, and the warning signs that too many people overlook until it's too late. And we asked the question that's been sitting in everyone's gut as this case unfolds. Again, the question was, is this preventable? So again, with Denise, I want to continue that conversation, but now we're going to go deeper. So earlier we focused on the environment, the decisions, and the family dynamics that surrounded Anna. And that was very quick, just to get a taste of what we're going to be discussing. Tonight, right now, with Denise, with the insight of a mental health professional, we want to understand why some of these red flags go unnoticed and how families can step in long before tragedy ever has a chance to occur. So we're calling this conversation, I put a little title to this, Family Lines Blur, the questions raised by the death of Anna Kepner, because again, I got all this from the comments. So when the story first broke out that Anna Kepner died under suspicious circumstances on a family cruise, people weren't just shocked, they were actually unsettled. The reaction wasn't only about what happened on that ship, it was about what might have been building long before the Horizon ever left port. So very quickly, one detail jumped out to the public. Anna, an 18-year-old woman, was sharing a cruise cabin with 2 teenage stepbrothers. I believe they're stepbrothers, including a 16-year-old who is now the main suspect in her death. And as we mentioned, we told you how she died of asphyxiation. So that question, why was she in that room, didn't come from moral judgment. It came from instinct. It came from the same instinct that parents feel when something doesn't look right. The instinct survivors develop after they've been through something traumatic. And honestly, the same instinct many of us on the internet rely on. Oh, what is this? I can't make out my writing here. Basically, don't worry about that part then. So when you've been in the field long enough, sorry. Even us in corrections, I totally forgot what I do for a second. All right, sorry about that. I don't know why I put that there. So when you've been in the field long enough, you start to recognize patterns. You see the precursors to danger. You may not be able to predict the exact moment something will happen, but you can often see the pieces falling into place. That's where the corrections part comes in. Sorry about that, guys. I've been doing true crime now, so I'm forgetting my natural instincts of what I do. So in this case, a lot of people feel like they saw those pieces. Blended families are very complicated. You got multiple histories, different parenting styles, new loyalties, old wounds, and kids trying to find their place in a new structure. Parents often hope that everyone will just get along, especially on a big family vacation that's supposed to bring everybody closer, but hoping for harmony is not the same thing as ensuring safety. In Anna's case, there were already serious allegations, we believe, before this cruise that the relationship with one stepbrother may not have been safe. According to public claims, this 16-year-old stepbrother allegedly climbed on top of Anna during a FaceTime call. A knife was allegedly involved, and people who say they witnessed or heard about this recall that Anna looked frightened and uncomfortable. Now, we don't know whether that incident was formally reported to the adults in charge. A lot of us believe it was, because the father of the ex-boyfriend did say he did report it, and I think the ex-boyfriend also says he reported it. He also said he reported something to the FBI, and they took him right off camera. If you guys look at the video I did yesterday, you're going to see the interview with him. I would definitely recommend you watch that video. Not for the views, but watch for the video to get the better understanding of what we're talking about here. So now, again, we don't know whether that incident was formally reported to the adults in charge. We don't know if it was minimized as horseplay or dismissed as teenage drama. But what we do know is that multiple people say Anna felt uneasy around him. And if that's true, it raises a central question we cannot ignore. If the danger signs were there, why was Anna placed in a cramped cabin with very little privacy and no easy escape? So now, from my perspective, this is exactly the kind of preventable scenario we try to avoid every day. Confined spaces, known tension, ignored boundaries, sounds like corrections, and choices that create risk instead of reducing it. Now, I want, Denise, if you don't mind, if a teenager is already showing threatening or boundary violating behavior towards a step sibling, what psychological red flags should parents be taken seriously from the start?
Well, even if there isn't any sort of red flag, it's like you going on a cruise with me, you bringing your daughter, me bringing my 2 teenage boys, and we decide it's a good idea for them all to room together. I mean, to me, it just doesn't even make any sense. And so now, in Chantel's case, there's already a DCF investigation. There's already some sort of problem. And so now we go on a cruise and we let all the kids sort of sleep together in the same cabin. I mean, the whole thing is just so bizarre to me. I'm really surprised Anna didn't say something to her father that she was uncomfortable spending, sharing a cabin with her stepbrothers.
Or maybe she did and he didn't listen. We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thinking, to be honest with you, the obvious reason why I'm thinking is because it'd be cheaper.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, to save money, and we'll just get 1 cabin instead of 2. But,
let me ask, so, I mean, because I was having a discussion about this too. So it's not even just so much the step siblings. What about if they were her full brothers? Would that matter?
Well, then you could sort of see it, I guess, a little bit. I mean,
what makes that different?
Well, the thing about it is they're not biologically related. Your steps are like my kids and your kids. And so you're taking a teenage girl and 2 teenage boys and you're putting them in a room together. Okay. I mean, I just think the whole thing is a little bit, for lack of better therapeutic words, creepy.
So would it make sense if we were going, let's say we didn't have a lot of money, right? But I wanted to plan this trip, right? But it's expensive. I mean, look, what, 5 or 6 kids? Would it have been better maybe if instead of the mom and dad having their own room, maybe the dad stay with his family and then the mom stay with her family, if that's the only way we could have managed the expense?
Yep. Or the boy, I don't know how good Christopher's relationship with the boys, but the boys could stay together and Chantel could stay with Anna. So
okay,
and the girls are in another room. Just to me,
interesting.
I think that would make more sense. And I mean, it's only, I don't know how long they're on a cruise, but it's not that long. And I think that would have been more a prudent decision.
See, that was funny. I try to put people back into their corners. You know what I mean? But you were right. Yeah. No, you could still manage still an effective blend with the father. I mean, obviously you married him, you got to trust them. So it would make better sense to put the father with the boys. Maybe I understand that. And then the mother could be with the, why not let the girls have their privacy? Yeah. I can actually picture myself, like let's say my wife's parents, whatever it was, I could picture if there was limited space, you know what? I'll team up with, whatever the dad, whatever it is. And if need be, with the kids, why don't you and the girls stay together? And mom could stay with you, and then me and your dad will partner up. Only because I guess obviously you want to protect your children, of course, but maybe there's something, and it's not. Maybe because I'm a dad, I am a what's it called, a girl dad. I only have 2 girls, and I'm not minimizing the protection of any child, but there is something about protecting your girls.
Yes.
And I'm not saying they can't protect themselves. I'm not, not against women's rights, but I'm a girl's dad, and my job is to protect my girls.
Particularly with 2 boys. So you take 1 girl and 2 boys. I mean, that's.
Yeah, that was very good. I didn't think of that. And I've been really, how we roll. I didn't think about that. Like we could have just split it that way. I was thinking of so many ways to split it. But yeah, I kept it with a separate family. That's funny. So now, because that's because that's the point where, we asked about the question. So this is the point where prevention has its best chance right at the beginning when those first troubling behaviors pop up. Because again, I think that there were concerns. I think she did say something, but I think They either could have been minimized by the stepmom, both to Anna, but also how she saw it. So, both ways. She also made he's just a teenager acting like, and I'm sure that could have been communicated to Christopher, because granted, still my daughter. So if I had to bring in an extended family or blended family, I'm still going to be very protective of my own and what I'm bringing in. Not, I don't know if this is right, but the blended family would be second to my daughter. Not saying it has to be a distant second, but my priority is always going to be my biological daughter. Not to the point where I treat the other kids like shit, but letting them know that this is my priority. So if my daughter had a concern, I wouldn't minimize it, but I could see, maybe Chantel and Chris, if the concern was brought to them, hypothetically, I don't know, but let's say if it was, she would maybe want to protect her son. That instinct would come in and either minimize it, or you're overthinking it. And then that could be translated to Christopher if he thought it was a concern. And then he could say, listen, they're just two kids. I'm sure you'll be okay. I'm sure you know how to handle, because he could have switched it up too. It's like, if you're 18, I got to ask you this. And guys, I'm sorry, guys. I love to talk. It's just who I am. Denise knows me, but she can shut me up anytime. Trust me. This is her show, but I just learned just by looking at her, I learned. But let me ask you a question. If I was the father and I wanted to maybe manipulate a worry from Anna, I'm just thinking. So Anna comes up, says, hey, I feel uncomfortable being with these 16-year-old boys, and now I have a concern because I got to please my wife and her, maybe a bit of a conflict here. I could make her think it's not that bad. What are you talking about? You're 18 years old. You're a woman. They're kids. What are you worried about? Could that play out in that dynamic?
It could, but that would really be sad. You have a daughter that comes to you and says, listen, I really don't feel comfortable staying with my stepbrothers, and I don't know, he gives me the creeps. And I tell you, even if there was nothing weird going on, most girls don't want to, share a room with teenage boys just because, they think they're disgusting. So I have two girls and a boy. When they got older and we would go on a trip, we would split them just because the girls didn't really want to be with my son. It's just, they get to a certain age where they really don't want to be together anymore.
Okay. So now I want to talk about the cabin itself. People who've cruised before know that these cabins are basically cells with softer lighting, tight walkways, zero real privacy, one small bathroom, and beds packed in a single compact room. I believe it's one single bed and two bunks, where the boys would have been top, bottom. The girl would have got the single bunk. The girl. Anna would have got the single bunk. So it's a very small, single compact room. In this case, the arrangement put Anna, age 18, in that tiny space with a 16-year-old stepbrother who is now the suspect, and a 14-year-old. I think it's a stepbrother or half-brother. Under normal circumstances, that already raises questions for a lot of parents. And I think that's what, after she had died and people are still trying to figure out, there was a leak where someone had said she was sharing the room with the stepbrother, and it just lit like wildfire. So everybody just, and even me, I'm like, yeah, that's weird. So it's like, it's weird, and you would assume reasonably that the parents would think that was weird, because it's reasonable. It's reasonable to believe that that's weird, but it's also more reasonable because they're step.
Correct. They're not related. They're not related at all, other than one's dad married the other one's mom.
Yeah, which may have been only for a year at this point. So under these allegations, it raises alarms. This is kind of my perspective. We constantly talk about, like in corrections, we talk about proximity risk. When you put people with known tension into a confined space, you dramatically increase the chance that something will go wrong. So again, you have the background of what she's concerned about, and also that's how she sees him. That's another thing. So even if he was, we know he did, but hypothetically, even if he wasn't doing something wrong, how she sees him matters. So again, it dramatically increases the chance that something will go wrong. So that concept doesn't just belong inside a prison. It applies inside homes, inside blended families, and yes, inside a cruise cabin. So Denise, why does close quarters living become so risky when the dynamics are already strained, or when one person may feel unsafe around another? And what happens psychologically in those conditions?
Well, certainly if you're in close quarters, it's difficult to get out. So it was probably very easy for him to corner or get her in a position. I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise, but some of those cruise ships, I mean, you can barely like get past each other to get to the bathroom. And getting to the bathroom takes a little bit of finagling. So I imagine it was an opportunity if, if this is the guy that did it, that she really didn't have a whole lot of room to get out or escape.
You make a good point because so technically in her mind, she's in survival mode the whole time.
Yeah, I would think so.
So that adds again to her perspective, right? And again, I'm not minimizing what he did, just providing a perspective. Hold on. So while the emotional side is playing out, law enforcement is looking at this through a different lens, but with similar questions, right? So they're going to ask, were the prior incidents involving the 16-year-old, were there any? Did Anna ever tell anyone she was uncomfortable? Did adults around her minimize what they saw or heard? And was there a clear pattern of escalation, more aggression, more fixation, more boundary pushing as time went on? And is this any indication that what happened to Anna was sexually motivated? You know what's funny? I want to show you something, actually, because this makes sense. Because what I get here is this is where prevention looks in, right? So we held the person who did something wrong. We know they did something wrong. We got him, but could this have been prevented? Now you start looking at everything that's around them, right? Mm-hmm. So now I want to show you something because in a video I did yesterday, watch this. Let me just go ahead and do something real quick. So real quick, I did this video yesterday, but I want to show you this one more time. There's context here. So that's the ex. He's the one that's going to share the story about how the stepbrother climbed on top of her in the middle of the night, whatever. And then they all of a sudden towards the end, they rush him out. I think the reason why it does is right before he said he spoke to the FBI. And I think now what I'm getting the picture of is that those are the questions that hold the family responsible now, not just the 16-year-old boy, but the family accountable. And that's why I think they push him out because like, hold on before you say that, because now you better watch out because if you're saying that there were signs and the family ignored it, now we shift this way. Mm-hmm. So tell me if you see that now. Okay. I'm just curious. Have you seen this video?
No.
Okay, it's 3 minutes. You're gonna find this interesting. Okay. Hold on. Here we go. And thank you for your patience.
Sure.
And it only take a second. Your name is Josh too. Spell your last name.
CEW.
All right. And how old are you?
15.
15. And how did you meet Anna?
Through a past relationship last year.
And how did you actually meet with her? In school?
At school.
At school. What type of person was she?
She was a great woman, I met her at school.
And the circumstances behind her death, you find them to be suspicious? And if so, tell me why.
It was suspicious because I knew that the brother did it, and yeah.
How do you know that?
Because of the past things that happened with him, like I was saying.
Which were right?
About the FaceTime and stuff.
What's the FaceTime?
Whenever I was on FaceTime with her, and when I was on FaceTime with her, and she was laying down, and the brother tried to go on top of her, and
you saw that.
Yeah,
and then how did she react to that?
I was like, "What the hell are you doing in the room?" Then he got scared and like ran away, and I heard his footsteps like running through the house, because he got caught.
So when you learned of her passing, what was your reaction?
I ran away. He ran away. It was kind of crazy.
And when you learned that she passed away, how did you feel?
I felt very sad, because that was my first love. She was the best that ever happened to me. And I'd even walk to her work to see her, for like 5-10 minutes.
Did you talk with her before her death?
Like 3 weeks before it, yes, ma'am. I was actually supposed to go on the cruise that she went on, but we broke up before that.
When did you split?
We split up like 6 months ago.
6 months. Okay.
And everyone said she's just a bright light. So many people wearing bright colors today. How would you describe the kind of person she was?
She was a great person. She definitely knew how to throw on her outfit. She was great, She knew how to put on colors. It wasn't like a basic outfit.
And this is your mom.
Yes,
She's
ma'am.
okay with you talking to us?
Yeah, but we need to go.
Okay. Just wanted.
Okay.
What should
to say
happen
yes.
next?
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you think should happen?
I think that he should get thrown in jail, for as long as possible. And yeah.
And when did you move into the house?
I have no idea.
Like a year or two?
Maybe like a year ago. I think so.
You'd
I
like
don't
You'd
know.
like to see justice for
Yeah,
for your
I'd like
first
to
love.
see a lot of justice. Yes.
Has she ever complained about his behavior before?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
What did she complain about?
She complained about him being uncomfortable, or her being uncomfortable around him, because of the fact that he tried to go on top of her in the bed, and because of that, she tried to go and stay the night at her friend's house and to dodge the staying the night at her house.
So that happened more than once.
Yes.
She ever bring that up with
How many
her?
times did it happen?
It happened one time, around like 3 a.m. that night.
That time when you were on the FaceTime call with her,
Yes, sir.
3 a.m.
Yes.
Did she ever report that to her father?
No, I have not. I reported it to the FBI.
And what is your name, ma'am?
Did you see that?
Yeah, lots of interesting things there where he said they broke up, but he had gotten on top of her and then he yelled at him through FaceTime and then the kid ran through the house. So that was before they were on the cruise.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. I apologize. That's my fault. Yeah, this was a couple of months before. I wasn't on the cruise. This this happened. Yeah, I apologize. I should have made that happened prior when they were dating. And then I do believe, I know some people are questioning if the kid's honest. The reason why I think the kid, he's nervous, but the reason why I think he's honest to some extent is he adds afterthought to stuff. Like he answers stuff, but then he goes, "Oh, I heard the kid's foot running through the house." Just very, it's like some people, when you ask them something, you think they're lying, they kind of build up and then they kind of stay focused on but he added something afterwards and you can hear the kid running through the house. So I mean, little things, but I think when they asked him the question, "Who'd you tell?" And now the media is probing, they got him out because now you're going to open up a door to a can of, and that was if they're trying to protect somebody, whoever brought him out, that was a smart move.
Yeah. And you heard the mom say, "Yeah, I'm the mother and we have to go." Because if that were my kid, I would not subject my child to interview like that because I just don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, the interview with the media, you mean, not necessarily the interview behind closed doors.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, they were just, drilling him with questions and, he's a 15-year-old kid.
They're vultures.
Yeah.
The media,
so if I were a parent, I would say, this is enough because this is, I wouldn't think it's a good idea.
Right. So again, I just wanted to show that video. I thought that was a good idea.
It is. So there was problems before they even went on the cruise.
Yeah, and that's where they. So believe it or not, that dialogue. I saw the article. I did this yesterday because it came out after I just did a show. It came out, and I was like, "Oh, that's relevant. That's not a stupid headline." I don't run with every bit of a headline, but that's relevant. So it went with the obsession. But then, what really made me do it was I was reading the New York Post, and it wasn't just he was obsessed. It was that FaceTime call. I said, you know what? Yeah, let me go ahead and because that may even be, if possible, that could be. You got data analysis. You never know if that could be picked up.
Yep. And he jumped on top of her, so he was,
with a knife,
very physical with her.
So it makes me think that this could make sense with the remark because that's up close, that's personal, from behind. Maybe she's sleeping on her stomach or whatever it is, or she gets her onto her stomach and he holds her from behind.
Yeah.
So these aren't wild or sensational. And by the way, a knife is a weapon of proximity too. So he's not afraid to get up close. That's scary.
Yeah. I guaranteed he's got a history, but like a longer history than all of this. But that's
remember
just my take on it.
Jesse Butler. I mean, once you start strangling, you're not afraid of taking out someone's life. That's the ultimate control of somebody.
Yeah.
So the knife. Yeah, that's. So these aren't wild or sensational questions. So that's the what we talked about before about what could have happened during that room. They're standard investigative lines whenever serious. The questions I mean were just background, understanding who this person is. Could this have been preventable? So these aren't wild or sensational questions. They're standard investigative lines whenever serious harm occurs between young people in a family-like environment. And from my perspective here, we do the same after an incident between inmates. What were the early signs? What got missed? And could this have been prevented if we intervened sooner? Hey, Denise, why do some families minimize clear warning signs even when the person they're worried about is another child in the home? And what's driving the denial? Is it guilt, fear, hope, or something else?
I think it's fair. It's interesting with what I do in practice. When I see people who are very anxious or that worry and overthink, they worry about things that they shouldn't, and they are not too concerned about things that they should. I mean, it's really interesting how it becomes a paradox, you know, where I mean, to me, no prudent parent would even put 3 teenagers in a room together, but you know, they seem to have gone way past that kind of thinking. And they had to know from Anna that she was uncomfortable with this kid because he had already like done some things to her before they even went on the cruise. But everybody seems to have forgotten that. And then they're put together and then this thing happens. I mean, it's not so far-fetched to understand why it happened in the first place.
Could you imagine if that she, in her effort to be persistent with her concern, they selfishly interpret as she's just being annoying and just grow up?
No,
Could you picture that happening?
I just, you know, with teenagers, I mean, obviously a lot of times they're drama and they don't want this and they don't want that, but this is something that's, you know, concerning. I mean, she doesn't feel comfortable with him. Maybe she confided in the dad that, you know, that this kid jumped on her with a knife. And I mean, I just don't know what they were thinking. You know,
I mean, right off the bat, if someone said they did that to my, you know, how would you even as a parent minimize it on either side?
I know.
The only way.
I was going to say, or she said, you know, it makes her feel uncomfortable. That would be enough.
Well, right. So what I'm thinking of is this: if she was sleeping, guys, I'm just drawing whatever. She was sleeping. The boyfriend's the one that's seen it. Maybe she didn't see it, so they try to convince everybody that he's telling a story. That you know that like don't get carried away. I don't know what he saw. Blah blah blah. Because it may not be something that maybe she didn't wake up. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe all she saw or heard was him running away. But it's funny where. At one point, I wonder if you get the parents, and we don't know, but hypothetically, where it gets to the point where she does become, if she says her concerns, why she feels uncomfortable, they're not generalized, they're very specific. So now it makes the parent think, okay, well, these are pretty specific. But instead of them listening to her, they wouldn't minimize that because it's too specific to minimize. They would have to call her a liar.
No, and just
does that make sense?
Well, but just because they didn't want to see it didn't mean it's not there.
Right.
I mean, you know, I tell that to parents all the time and couples. I'm like, just because you don't want to see this doesn't mean it's not there. And
right. So if someone, sorry, finish that thought.
I was going to say, and I do hold the parents responsible. I just think the whole thing was just not well thought through, and I would hold them responsible.
Yeah. And by the way, you could always overtalk me. I get excited,
Okay.
but my pauses are very quick, and that's my fault.
I'll get in there. I'm from New Jersey too. I can get.
Yeah, okay, good. So you understand me. So guess people that are watching this, I don't mean to do that. Me and her but she knows me. I'm a quick. But I wanted to ask something. So when you deal with families, right, and I come up to you, and I really do have a specific. Let's say you know, a kid going to my dad or my mom, and I have a specific problem, but it's specific. It's so specific that you can't minimize it because it's just too. It's not like I can minimize generality concerns all day. Oh, that's just your perspective. But when it's that specific, then the only thing I could do is maybe call you out as a liar. So could that mess with the dynamic where all of a sudden now you're going to call me a liar and I just stop bringing it to you?
Well, to me, calling somebody a liar means I don't want to investigate and I don't want to understand it. To me, that's very dismissive. Like you're telling me something that you're concerned about, and I go, no, you're lying, or that's not how it went. And to me, that's being very closed-minded and not being willing to, you know, to put any energy into understanding what's happening and what should be done. I think they all dismissed it.
Yeah, and I wonder if Anna saw the stepbrother as who he really is, and everybody else saw the performative stepbrother.
I have a hard time believing that he was
That good.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew he had that. That's Jersey, man. That's
yeah.
right.
I have a hard time believing because of how aggressive he was in the instances that we know, with what not only happened that killed her, but jumping on top of her with a knife. I mean, that just doesn't happen.
But I bet you, like, as the father or the mother, if I know that this could be a divide in the family, right? Hypothetically, I could be wrong, but just hypothetically, if this could cause a divide in the family, then what happens here is I only see what I want to see, and anything that conflicts with that, that's not who he really is. So maybe he performs, and I know it's bullshit, but in the end, I'm not willing to see it.
Yep. And this family already had a lot of dysfunctional family dynamics. So this is just, I mean, they're in this court case, and we just saw. I mean, this is already a very complicated legal matter, and so this is just adding to it.
Yeah, because I mean, if those were the concerns, I wouldn't want the kid in my house. Now, how do I deal with the relationship with my my new wife? Because that's her son. So I wonder if that was part of the strain. So mental health professionals talk a lot about patterns, and patterns really appear out of nowhere. If the allegation against this 16-year-old are true, there were likely early markers, as Denise said. Maybe he was invading Anna's privacy, going through her things, pushing into her space. Maybe he was trying to control or dominate her, using rough play that didn't feel playful at all to her. Maybe he used intimidation, fake threats, real threats, weapons, or just leveraging fear to get a reaction. Maybe there were sexualized comments, an inappropriate focus on her, a jealous or possessive attitude, manipulative behavior, or increasingly aggressive boundary violations. But one red flag in isolation might be brushed off, but a cluster of them, a pattern of them, that's where danger lies. So again, I kind of put a lot of correction thought in this, but we look for pre-incident behaviors, all the little things people shrug off as nothing until one day.
We do too.
Yeah, the clusters. So now, speaking of that, from your perspective, what early behavior suggests that a teen's interest in a step sibling has crossed from normal curiosity or conflict into something unhealthy, obsessive, or even predatory?
Well, the violence is concerning. So either he has dabbled in some sort of violent behavior, he's got some antisocial personality tendencies, can't diagnose that for another couple years, but I bet he's had some problems at school with maybe conduct disorder. I mean, there's been some trouble here. You just don't get to that level without a lot of other things that have happened before.
Right. Now, I agree with you 100%. I mean, working in corrections, obviously you see the end result to some extent. You see people that are just, they already dealt with the patterns. This is who they are now to some extent, but it's funny because at that age of 16, how much settled in are they and who they could become, or is there still a chance it could be prevented, or we at an interactive stage? I mean, because I always look at things like preventing is young, then there's interaction right in the mix of it, which does require a balance of accountability and trying to turn the person around. But then there's just the last level where you're just forced to react.
Yeah, and I would say that's where you are.
At 16?
With what he's doing. It's one thing if, he's just sort of being a little bit annoying at school or something like that, where it's something that can be corrected. But the fact that DCF has already been involved with this family and now he's doing such violent things, I think there's more to it.
Okay. And it does make you question, I'm assuming, the whole family dynamic from that side of the family. And then, now imagine that though. Imagine, marrying someone, marrying their family as well, technically, and introducing that dynamic. Because you may not even understand that dynamic, when I'm not used to seeing that, but now you are. But I would think you would be more alert to it, though.
I would think so too by the third time. And I tell you, I have people that ask me about like wanting to date, and I said, just be careful that they don't have a lot going on with the ex and the kids and all that, because you just get caught into the vortex of this this mess. I mean,
Now,
it's-
guys, mind you, what we're talking about, this is just continuing the narrative as where it's headed. It could always shift. Something can change, and then we may have to but right now we have to go to where the evidence is showing. Now, I want to talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention. I wanted to add this, which is the silent pressure kids carry in blended homes. So in blended families, kids often feel like they're walking on eggshells. They don't want to be the reason the adults fight. They don't want to be called dramatic. You mentioned that. Ungrateful. And by the way, she doesn't see the script beforehand. She has no idea what questions are coming her way.
Nope.
So this is her expertise somehow makes it onto this page here. They don't want to be the reason for the adults' fights. They don't want to be called dramatic, ungrateful, or the problem. They don't want to be labeled as the one who won't adjust to the new family. So instead of speaking up, because it could be, they stay quiet. They try to adapt. They swallow their discomfort. They protect the fragile balance between the biological parent and the step parent, sometimes at the expense of their own safety. This is the other angle. If she didn't say anything, girls especially are often trained directly or indirectly to keep the peace, to be polite, to not make a scene. If Anna felt unsafe, it's entirely possible she stayed silent for the same reasons we see. I went to my department. I went to my thing is inmates they sign about dangerous cellmates, fear. It's either fear, pressure, confusion, and a belief that saying something might make matters even worse. So if I could ask you, Denise, how often do children silence themselves to preserve the family dynamic, and what emotional forces keep them from saying, I don't feel safe around this person?
It's interesting because this is a case that I see fairly frequently where the family's now blended and the kids don't feel comfortable going to the dad's house because of the new wife and the kids. And it's mostly more neglect. Like they feel like the dad now, chooses the new family over them. So I see a little bit more of neglect, but I'm telling you, if it was something with safety, physical safety, or sexual concerns, I mean, that's when the parents really have to key in and explore that.
So right. So let me ask a question. Before a blended family starts to move in, we're not talking about the Brady Bunch here, just a blended family. I remember, like, maybe it was an episode of the Brady Bunch, I don't know, but there's usually a dialogue where priorities are set. So your biological children feel that they could still go to you, that you expect them to go to you. And I think, is that something that should be set and really maintained throughout this process until we find some level of comfortability amongst this?
Yes, but that takes a mature parent, one that's really invested in the kids and make sure that they're transitioning well and so forth. What I see are the family dynamics are already dysfunctional, and then they find another family that also may have some dysfunctional dynamics, and they try to blend them together, and it's chaos. It's there are the few cases that are just exhausting. I mean, because there doesn't seem to be any easy answer.
Right. And I know we have one more question before we come to a close, but there was a comment. I had people post comments up to see if I can ask you a question. There was a comment that came my way here that was to be, they wanted to know if I could read it to you. So let's do this. Let's wrap up this last question from the show itself, and then I'm going to hit the comment up from Anna B, because this is a comment for you, not for me.
Sure.
And she knows you, by the way. She's been watching you since we started the channel, so she's
Great.
a big fan of all your work.
Lovely.
Yeah, I that's always extra lovely. Okay, so I got 2 questions left. All right, so a lot of parents watching this case have said very clearly, I would never put my daughter in a room with 2 teenage boys, or if I knew about a previous incident, there was no way they shared a cabin. And that's not hysteria. That's not overreaction. That's rational response to what we know about adolescent development, privacy needs, power dynamics, and how prior warning signs should shape decisions. A cruise cabin is not a regular bedroom. It's a locked metal box, miles out at sea. Something goes wrong in that room, help is not just down the hall. It's decks away, behind secure doors, subject to procedures and delays, and the stakes are higher in that setting. So, Denise, what drives parents to downplay real risk inside their own home? Is it guilt, fear, or breaking up the family, not wanting to see the truth, or something else?
I agree. They don't want to see the truth.
Really?
That's what I have noticed. where there's problems, and sometimes if they're blended and they're both boys, one is bullying the other, and the one will go to the dad and say, I don't feel comfortable, and they go, oh, you guys need to learn to get along. And I think basically a lot of times they don't want to deal with it. It's a mature parent that is concerned, and really a lot of times will come to family counseling so that it can blend more easily. But a lot of times there's a lot of history there, so it doesn't always go as well as planned.
No, that's interesting, because what's funny is I like what you said when they don't want to see the truth, because I know a lot of people could say, a feeling underneath that could warrant that. Like, so I could feel guilty, so I don't want to see it, or I could deny, right? Or I could just fear seeing the truth. But I also think when I put not wanting to see the truth separate from all that, because in my mind, that's also a selfish motive, because if you're not willing to see it, it's because it's at your own expense, not at the expense of the person you're supposed to watch out for. Does that make sense?
Correct. And you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to put the energy into it. You don't want to put any effort into it, or you don't want to disrupt, whatever, or get in a fight with the new wife or the new husband. And you just don't want to create all that problem. But the problem is it creates more problems.
Yeah.
Again,
well, look at this case.
Yeah. This case was just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and it gets more confusing as you figure out all the ingredients in this recipe. So all this leads us to the most uncomfortable question. This is the end of the discussion, but I still have that one comment for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
But I got one more question here. Right? No, two more. Just two more.
I was going to say, if you only had one more, I'd be surprised.
No, yeah, you're right. There's two more than the comment.
Okay, all right.
So, and all this leads us back to the most uncomfortable question of all, the one that ties everything together from the pre-show I did earlier today to now, is if the allegations are true, if there were prior signs of aggression, if Anna expressed discomfort, and if anyone suspected danger, was this preventable?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, so I ask you a question, does now your view of onus or whatever responsibility now has to, would you first, when you got wind of this and you're watching this and then you find out it's a stepbrother, when do you stop looking at the stepbrother and start looking at his family environment?
Right away.
Right away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because the court hearing was in a county where I used to live.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would love to be on, well, I wouldn't love, but I'd be very interested to be involved in that case, because I think it's
well, you never know who's watching this.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know who's watching this. Guys, you heard that. I don't know if that's pro bono work, but you heard that she's willing to volunteer. No, I didn't say volunteer. Let me watch out.
Yeah.
But she's willing to be a part of it.
I used to do it a lot. For people that had been arrested, I would do the psycho analysis of, and to talk to the attorneys about whether it was worthwhile for me to testify. And I know these cases seem complicated, but when you really sort of know what you're doing, they're pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and you've done it a lot, right?
Yeah, lots. You know what you're looking for. I guess the same as corrections. You sort of understand the dynamics and how it all works.
Yeah, I think, like as you just mentioned, I think that like for me, I kind of know what the cover of the puzzle box looks like. It's just a matter of me just seeing how the pieces fit. So it's like
me too.
Yeah, and I think that even happens just in anything, even in real life. It's like, you know what, you start to see the same patterns.
Yep.
And ultimately it builds the same picture. It's just there's uniqueness in how it's done.
True.
But in the end, ultimately the picture usually is somewhat similar to what we dealt with before.
And believe it or not, even in medicine, it was the same way. I mean, I did critical care, so they were coming very sick, very bad condition. But to see how they got there was pretty straightforward, even though it seemed like it was shocking. It really wasn't.
And sometimes, guys, when you get these stories, sometimes the media, they make it more complex because it gets the clicks. They make it more mysterious. When at the end of the day, it really is probably a lot more cut and dry than people think.
It is. It's just putting a puzzle together. And when you've done it a lot, you can do it fairly quickly. So you can get
especially when you have all the right people in play.
Absolutely. And know what questions to ask. That's key.
It's not always about the answer. It's about the right question.
Yeah.
That's why Jeopardy was such a great show.
Yeah. And watching body language, and like in family dynamics, I watch where they sit. I watch a whole lot of things. I'm really noticing because it tells, it's not what they say, but it's what they don't say.
Yeah, the wider the space they take, the more confident, the lesser the space you're getting them close. And then I love that. I mean, I've studied, I've taught that as well. And, I've learned, you just got to know when to turn it off because everybody will lie. But you got to, basically be careful what you take at face value.
Yeah, very true.
Not to the point where you're paranoid. But so as we said earlier today, reaction mode doesn't save lives. By the time we've reacted, the harm is usually done. Prevention is where lives or lives are saved. Prevention is where family dynamics can be shifted, where boundaries can be enforced, where kids can be moved into safer spaces, where professionals' help can be brought in earlier. So tonight's conversation at its core is about prevention, right? So how critical is early intervention when a teen begins escalating towards harmful behavior, and what forms of intervention actually work realistically for families in these types of situations?
Oh gosh, it can be really tough, and it depends upon how dangerous or how violent or how disruptive that they are. I mean, with children, what I look for is fire setting. I think I've spoken about this before. Aggression toward animals. I mean, we're looking for certain behaviors. Not just that they're disruptive at school. Just there's some other things that are key to look at to more potentially aggressive behavior as they grow up. And I can tell you, usually almost all the time in the family dynamics, there's already a lot of dysfunctionality, which is why the personality starts to form inappropriately.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what's funny? It's let me get myself back in. It's good that we had this dialogue because I think there's a lot of things here that people will relate to that never know how to express it. I mean, that's sometimes the key. I think a lot of the times is we feel it, but we don't know how to express it. I think that's what good when we do these type of shows, because there's always something in these cases where you could look at and create an impact for the legacy of the victim. For those, so technically, this dialogue brings in a great discussion that could save a life behind closed doors, and that's done because now we've picked up the chance, us, the community, to be a voice for her.
Yes.
Her sacrifice has to mean something.
Yep. Find some meaning in it.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Find meaning in tragedy.
And that's what. But the thing is, I love that. But the thing is, you gotta see the reality of that tragedy too, which ain't always easy.
It's true. I mean, you have to understand it, and then in order to find meaning and what we could do moving forward, and that honors the victim.
18 years old, huh?
Yeah, awful.
Look at that.
Yeah,
I showed her TikTok page a while ago, so you can see how she's just enjoying life. Straight A student, loved by school, getting ready to go to the military at some point. So Anna B said, I saw you had posted a couple of videos regarding this case, Anna Kepner, recently, which I plan to watch shortly. So by the way, she watched all of them today.
No.
So yes, hopefully she watched this one. Anna B, shout out. And guys, side note, I do have Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. We have the link in the description, also on the top of the YouTube channel. If you ever do put something together like Buy Me a Cup of Coffee, because you could be on a little bit more, just let me know and I'll put the link with mine. So because people are going to eventually want to donate towards you, because in this show, this wasn't about me, this was about you. So, if you ever want to put one together, it's very simple. And then people could just hit the link, they donate, and then you could reply back with I always do a video message. So they like that, it shows, I think for me, if you're willing to put the time with somebody, really invest time, it matters more than just, saying thank you. No, I want to show a video. I want to sit in my house and give you a video and have like a little bit of a heartfelt exchange. Again, we're nothing without the community. So right now, this is from Anna B. I'm very unfamiliar with this case, but remember, she watched it now. So now she's learned a little bit. But, all right, so let's see, where am I at? When I heard recently that the stepbrother could be responsible, it made me very curious what might have happened. I think it would be interesting to hear about the dynamics in this family between the victim, rest in peace, and the stepbrother. I had an adopted sister growing up. I know this is not the same as a stepsister in the fact that there are no family ties. I love her a lot. However, there were certain frictions that would occur between my brothers and sisters and my adopted sister, and it took a while for everyone to relearn their position, which wasn't always easy. Kids can be very needy, and we who were already a family sometimes felt like we were being ignored, and we would ask our parents why they were spending less time with us, or in other words, more time with her. looking back, I realized that was so immature. I would like to hear what both of your opinions are with regards to what the stepbrother was thinking as to whether he had any hatred and jealousy towards his stepsister, etc. And when did they move in together as a family? That was a year ago of the incident, a year before the incident. I have read that combined families such as this, although common, are one of the hardest family dynamics to face and achieve a balance in.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts, Denise? This is yours.
I think for the stepbrother, Anna gave him opportunity. You know, she seems like a sweet girl, and I think he just took advantage of her. And you know, sometimes these type of predators are opportunists. So I think that, you know, she unfortunately fell victim to circumstance, and the parents seemed oblivious, honestly.
Interested that you said that real quick. So we talked about this before, but I just want to clarify. So you're at 16, you're okay, and I'm okay with it. You know me. Trust me. I'm asking a question more out of a curiosity, not judgment.
Sure.
Because I'm okay with it too, 100%. But maybe just for someone else hearing this, because you're always going to have the softer side of things, which is a needed side. It's a balanced side. But you're okay with calling a 16-year-old a predator?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think anybody that wants to do something, I would say evil, which is probably a strong word, I think they look for opportunity. Like even if it's somebody very controlling and abusive, they're looking for somebody who will tolerate their abuse. And
I like that. So if I may ask, just ask a question. If so he was 16, he already had habits that we could see looked like he was pretty much there.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. What would you call someone before that?
What do you mean?
Like basically before they reach that predator stage where maybe there's a chance to intervene or prevent. I mean, just the signs. What's the progression?
First, well, we have narcissism, which is, and you know, children developmentally when they're teenagers, they're all about themselves. They're very egocentric. You know, they want what they want, and they want it now. I mean, that's the challenge of teenagers. But as narcissism sort of goes down on a scale, if you're getting worse, kids or even adults, they lose empathy, or they do things and they don't care. They don't care if it hurts somebody. They don't care if there's a consequence and so forth. That's the scary part. And it's a little bit tough when the judge will say they have to go to counseling, because there's no way a counselor can help somebody develop empathy. You either have it or you don't. It's like being pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. And so that's the challenge. And they do what they do and they don't care. You know, you're either with them or against them. And they can be very, very dangerous and to me, very scary.
Yeah. And the lack of empathy is where the
huge.
Yeah, the objectification, the being the object, right? Like, so if I don't have empathy, it's because you mean nothing to me. And strangling's got to be the biggest form of lack of empathy you could ever have, having control of the person breathing, living, and dying, right?
Correct. And they're masterful at what they do, which is even more scarier, I think. I mean, sometimes when I'm around that kind of personality, I watch what they do, and it's amazing how sensitive they are to energy. And they can tell when you're feeling a little bit vulnerable or getting a little nervous, and that's when they take advantage.
So could a teenager like this 16-year-old maybe be more aggressive because mentally he doesn't have the game to be manipulative?
Oh, I think, well, with him, I imagine he did a little bit of both.
Both, right.
And I imagine he manipulated the mother.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Manipulate the environment, but you still have your target.
Right. You create the opportunity. So you manipulate the environment and then you create an opportunity.
Made me look bad. I wrote a book on inmate manipulation, and that's the key thing. What do you do first, right? Exactly. You control the environment, eliminate the obstacles, and you go for the target.
Yes.
Oh my God, what was I think? I'm telling you, you just Denise 101 me.
That's okay.
Hey Denise, anything in closing your books? I mean, you did. I whatever you want to put out there, please. Let me give you the screen.
I would love for people to come visit me on deniseschoenwald.com. I have many books. Text me, email me, whatever you want to do. Let's keep the conversation going.
Yes, and I would love to have you on again. I've been really following that Melody Buzzard case. I see the narrative shifting. I believe, I know, I just, with that case, just to reiterate a little bit here, at the very beginning, I was concerned about paranoia, her mental breakdown, and all these other things that could have put the child at risk. I'm not saying the child's not at risk. We don't know. But then there was an incident happened in 2021 where they locked her away because she was having a mental health breakdown. She gave her daughter to the paternal side to watch, take care of why she went through this, only to find out later on they were trying to adopt her, take her away, and the government was a part of that. And I think that she could be going through something like that again, and she doesn't trust anybody with that child. But now, how does she see protection? Protection could be giving the child to someone she trusts, or if I don't have that, but I would love to share that perspective, a dialogue on that. Okay, guys, the show is Tear Talk. Guys, don't forget, we have to buy me a cup of coffee, and see you soon. Thank you, Denise.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.